All right. Well, our guest today here at Post Wrestling, a veteran combat sports announcer, the voice of Showtime Championship Boxing, Bellator, his brand new series, the Maurologue that we're going to talk about, the connective tissue between Floyd Mayweather Jr. and Coconut Willie, the man that has shared broadcast booths with Bad News Alan Coage and Snoop Dogg, and of course, the subject of the highly acclaimed documentary, The Bipolar Rock and Roller, that's available through Showtime. The man behind Fight Network Radio himself, Mauro Ranallo, is with us on Post Wrestling today.
When MC Marijuana hits the hip-hop tour slate, when we finally are able to hold concerts again, you're my hype man. You are the prodigy. The Jopo is my hype man, brother. So good to talk to you, and thanks again for having me on. It's always a pleasure, John.
Well, you have been an extremely busy man, as has been pretty consistent in all the years that I have known you. And you're coming off what I think privately you've told me has been a career high for you, one of many, being this recent Mike Tyson, Roy Jones Jr. Exhibition that saw you share the broadcast waves with Snoop Dogg. That is not something that I would have been expecting going into 2020. But Mauro, this was a fight that kind of crept up on people, and it was an interesting experiment of, would this find an audience? And the answer was a resounding yes. And it was a unique circumstance that you ended up getting to be front and center for this.
We put the real and surreal, and it's appropriate that you called it a career high, because it was a career high in every sense of the word, my friend. We turned the Staples Center into the Situation Room, John. And it was an incredible, not only notch on my career belt, but again, I was living out many of my fantasies, not only being ringside for Mike Tyson versus Roy Jones Jr. in 2022, of my all-time favorites. Yes, past the expiry date, as it were, but the fact that they put themselves in the kind of shape that they were in. 54-year-old Tyson hadn't been in a ring for 15 years. Roy Jones, a little more active, 3 years younger, but it had almost been 3 years since we saw him, and obviously fighting lower-level opposition. But you're right. A lot of people, and I know a lot of people in boxing especially, were calling it a farce, a circus, and I get it. Obviously, this could have been very dangerous. It could have gone off the rails in a hurry, but I thought Mike Tyson, who lost over 100 pounds and still showed glimpses, as did Roy Jones Jr., I think it was almost understood, hey, we'll get an opportunity to deliver the greatest hits, but, even though it was unofficial scoring, you couldn't go against Tyson. He went 8 2-minute rounds, managed to hurt Roy Jones Jr. very early, and a lot of us thought immediately, okay, this is not going to last long, but they went the distance. People seemed to really enjoy it, and the entire card was just filled with so many different aspects of what I like about combat sports. We had a fantastic fight in the free hour where it belonged, between a couple of featherweights, Gonzalez and Vasquez, that could be one of my choices for fight of the year. It was a tremendous tilt. And of course, we had the celebrity fight, Jake Paul against Nate Robinson, which ended in notorious fashion, especially for Nate Robinson. As you know, we don't play boxing, and despite his background as the only 3-time slam dunk champion in the NBA at 5'9" and trying out for the Seattle Seahawks, I don't think we'll see him in a boxing ring again. But Jake Paul, I know, a polarizing figure, but he is bringing an audience, and he is bringing what appears to be a serious attempt at trying to be a professional boxer. If he wasn't an internet superstar, he wouldn't be any close to the level of attention he's getting. But yeah, the front and center, my man. And John, you know what broadcasting has meant to me, but sitting there with another one of my heroes, Sugar Ray Leonard, UFC middleweight champion Israel Adesanya, my worlds colliding literally at the broadcast table. And again, going back to my radio and club DJs and my affinity for hip hop, being on, I get emotional and goosebumps now. Snoop Dogg is on my Mount Rushmore of everything, including someone, yes, who I would like to have enjoyed some THC with, as it were. And for him to not only deliver and steal the show with his iconic commentary, but to be as gracious and humble as he was, and to literally come up to me after the show and say, "Yo, dog, I got to get you on a track." I'm like, "What?" He goes, "I got to get you. I'm going to write something specific, but I got to get your voice on a track." And I'm like, what is happening here? What is life? What is going on? And not only that, but then wanting to hang out after. And like I say, guys, I know, we never want to put people on pedestals. I've tried not to be a fanboy or starstruck, even though I've met every one of my heroes and started at a young age. But yeah, I was in just a fog, actually, wondering how in this year, where we have all endured so much negative and tragic circumstances, that for one night we delivered a Fellini fever dream. I mean, hip hop stars Mike Tyson, Roy Jones Jr., and Snoop Dogg, and this little Canadian boy from Mount Lehman getting to be front and center in all of this. Like, come on.
I joked at the top about, the wide variety of people that you have shared a broadcast booth with. But I think if you were to sit down and list some of the pairings that you have had throughout your career, like, it's such a divergent spectrum of people that you have called fights with, whether it be professional wrestling, boxing, MMA, and other sports. Is there that immediate bond the day of a card when you get together with someone you've never shared a booth with before, and any kind of advice you give them, especially for a novice that is sitting in a booth to provide color for you, because you have an ability to kind of just weave with whatever style is presented with you to present that night's broadcast?
Thank you for that, John. And as someone who is as self-critical as they come, I'm beginning to realize, and maybe I did years ago, I wanted to be someone who gelled with everyone put with me. And there have been easier associations, definitely. And there have been times where I felt, challenged, and maybe I thought, wait a minute, not in exactly the right role. And unfortunately, chemistry is everything. And I've earned, I believe, the right over close to 35 years now as a professional broadcaster that, yeah, I want to be with the best of the best. I think at this level, we deserve that. I don't want to begrudge anyone any opportunities, but yeah, this had a recipe for disaster in so many ways. I took the fight. I mean, first of all, best wishes to my Hall of Fame broadcast partner with Showtime, Al Bernstein, who was supposed to be in my shoes at the event, who fell sick the week of the show and called me on that Monday, and I didn't make the deal until Thursday. The show was Saturday. And to just make that connection immediately, and there was a connection. Ray Leonard and I had worked together previously on CBS, and even when I went into the green room, as it were, and socially distanced, he's like, "Man, I like working with you." Israel Adesanya, one of the baddest men on the planet, one of the UFC superstars, showing me respect. Mauro, such a pleasure, and really thanking me for making it so easy for him, putting the ball on the tee, and Snoop Dogg is Snoop Dogg. I knew, hey, we all have maybe egos and pride, but I know I'm just there to tell a story and put everyone over, and I let Snoop Dogg do what he had to do, but I felt instant chemistry with him. I remember I made one of my, comments as it is, like, let's get back to hot boxing, and he's like, "Oh, I like that on the air." So again, it was a night to remember, but you're right. I've been with so many broadcast partners. I remember, the first broadcast when I did MMA on Showtime in February 2007, Elite XC. I worked with, the number one of the best insiders in the NFL, Jay Glazer, and none other than Bill Goldberg. Come on. And so over the years, I mean, Boss Rutan started it all for me, but even going prior to that, Keith Crawford and Bad News Allen, as you mentioned, and my first color commentator as a play-by-play announcer for pro wrestling, none other than Playboy Buddy Rose, who, again, I idolized growing up in the 70s and 80s, one of the biggest attractions in many ways, ahead of his time with the video packages, but a guy who had a legendary rivalry in the Pacific Northwest with Rowdy Roddy Piper. And so, I mean, this is my first color commentators. So I've been blessed in every sense of the word, John. I think I believe, the only thing I can say to people out there, and especially this year, you have to believe in yourself. And when it is darkest, just believe that there is a dawn and keep fighting. It's a cliche. It's kind of become my catchphrase, but you keep fighting the good fight. And I'll tell you, man, you will be put in situations. If you just show up, you will be put in situations that can benefit your life. And I can't believe what happened out of left field on Saturday, November 28th. And so, yes, I worked with a lot, but I believe that this is the most eclectic team that I've ever been associated with.
What was your reaction? I mean, following this business as closely as you have, that when those pay-per-view numbers came out, I don't think the biggest optimist could have ever foreseen it hitting that level of business. And, in the light now of the announcement of Floyd Mayweather Jr. and Logan Paul, are we entering sort of this era of the exhibition fight, and that we're going to see a lot more of these experiments after this exceeded all expectations just a few weeks ago?
I don't know if we're entering an era of exhibition fights because there's only one Mike Tyson. There's only one Floyd Mayweather. There's only a handful of legends and fighters that could maybe perhaps not embarrass themselves, which is the first thing, not get seriously hurt, which is really the first thing. But I believe that Saturday, November 28th, 2020, and I've heard from a cross-section of people from television and the entertainment business, this transcended. This was a crossover event of the highest order. And even myself, I thought at best, looking at the pay-per-view market and knowing what boxing had been receiving, but also realizing that we're in a pandemic. There's 28 million people in America who don't have enough food to eat. And I thought, well, if this thing does, because of Mike Tyson's reputation and intrigue and curiosity, if it does 700,000 buys, this is a major success. You think in the back of your head, maybe, just maybe, if because of Mike Tyson, it could go over 1 million, but I've never thought that seriously. And for it to exceed 1.2 million pay-per-view buys, I think it speaks to just how big a name Mike Tyson is. I think it speaks to maybe even the crossover appeal. I know not everyone's fans of musical acts at events, and we've seen some disasters in that regard. But I thought it was seamless in terms of bringing hip hop and boxing together, which I thought for the longest time should be paramount. The largest boxing audience is, your Hispanic and your African American audience, and so what is the most popular music on the planet right now, especially for those two demographics? It's hip hop. So kudos to Triller. And let's face it, John, in order to make money, you have to spend money. They reimagined, almost reinvented what is possible in terms of production value. I don't know the cost. I know they paid a pretty penny, but you saw it. And especially now where even working with Showtime in the fight sphere, which I think they've done a great job of the presentation, but there's no fans, of course, in the audience, and there is that kind of cavernous. So it's not the same, obviously, and we've adapted. But with that Triller event, man, there was a stimulation of the senses. Some of the big hip hop acts. I love Wiz Khalifa, love YG, and not only it was supposed to be Lil Wayne, but with all due respect to Yeezy, I am so glad that Snoop Dogg not only came in as an announcer, but he set it off before the main event, dropping everything like it's hot. And so I just think what an experience. It was surreal, but really I believe that this has to change the way the promoters and networks approach the event. And I know the UFC went away from, the ramps of what they thought was a WWE-esque comparison, but you look at what Bellator is done, and I know Scott Coker influenced by Pride, and remember what Pride Fighting Championships was like, larger than life productions. WWE presentation has always been about the hype and telling the story in the vignettes, and I believe as much as boxing has done a great job, and again, I'm biased, but Showtime, I believe, is the top production when it comes to boxing. I think even we have to take note of what happened November 28th and always try to not necessarily reinvent the wheel, but make sure the wheel has enough air to keep rolling.
I wanted to talk a little bit about, now that we're a few months removed, your decision to leave WWE, as you did a number of months ago. I didn't really ask you at the time, but now that you've had several months to look back at it, what has been, the decision that went into that, and also now having an ability to stand back and look at that decision, how you arrived at it, and how you're feeling today about that, because it's a significant schedule you take on when you are with the WWE, even during the pandemic. Looking back now, tell us just a little bit about what went into that decision for you.
All right. And again, I want to thank Triple H, who, by the way, sent me a very nice text message after the Tyson pay-per-view. WWE is one of the most mentally grueling places, and that's not necessarily a criticism by any means. There's a reason Vince McMahon has built a multi-billion-dollar empire. Is it perfect? Not by any means, but neither am I. And I chose at a late age in life, 46, to go to WWE. When they courted me, it was a dream come true. I wanted to work for WWE as a play-by-play announcer because I thought it would be not only an affirmation of my accomplishments and my achievements and who I am as a broadcaster, but because the connection I had with pro wrestling going back to the very beginning of my life. One of the few things that my father, mother, and my siblings really bonded around. And so pro wrestling has always had a special place in my heart. And I did visualize. I remember my best friend, Michael John Jansen, who passed away at 19. When I went to pick him up at his college, when he was 18, out of the blue, he says to me, he goes, "I can't wait for you to work with Vince McMahon or for Vince McMahon." He never got to live to see that. So making WWE was very special to me for many reasons. Now, I thought Jerry Lawler and Byron Saxton and I had instant chemistry, but they made the changes they felt they had to make. It's their company. I've proven I can work with almost anyone as a broadcaster. But yeah, there were many times where I'm like, what is going on here? Like a 4-man booth, an 8-man. There was a picture someone had on Twitter where there were literally 8 people on headsets. I get it. But that's not what I want as a commentator. I get these stressful situations. I get the changes on the fly, or it's just the system there. But for me and my mental health, even moving to NXT, where when we were live, it was the best experience I could ask for. And that's a testament to what Triple H and everyone down in NXT has done. I just felt for my own mental health, and it was becoming more and more apparent. Doing the show even from home. And I know, God bless his soul, Jim Cornette and many people, how the hell can this guy quit a high-paying gig, high-profile gig, of which there are so few in this world, and actually he could do the show from his home. They were allowing him to do the show from home remotely. How could he leave? It was to the point that I would have panic attacks in the morning of the recordings of the last few months. Wow. And then I didn't like, with all due respect, I didn't like what was happening with who was involved, in all respect to all announcers. But I also believe in chemistry, and maybe I was the problem. When on show day, I'm not a great guy to be around because I'm completely effing focused. I'm prepared, and I expect everyone else to be the same. And so there you go. There was another reason. I'm a play-by-play announcer. I think I'm one of the better ones in the business. And I don't need, I need to be left alone at times. And so I want to thank WWE for everything. They have improved my standing in the world. They've allowed me, I believe, to get other opportunities. The fan base, and their treatment of yours truly, their support of my documentary. There will never be, and I know this business feeds off it. Let's tell all, the shoot interview. The shoot is this. It was like my life, filled with highs and lows, trials and tribulations. Sometimes, when the dream comes true, it doesn't necessarily remain a dream. Sometimes you're not supposed to meet your heroes. I am blessed that I met everyone. I am so thankful I got to work with one of the most creative minds, one of the greatest promoters ever in Vince McMahon. Did we see eye to eye? No, but I think that was also a respect. he had for me and the one I have for him. He has his vision and I have my vision, and NXT was my vision. And unfortunately, like everything else, it just became too much for me. And I'm at a stage now where I need to be comfortable. Needless to say, I need to be comfortable. And the only place really right now I'm comfortable is with people that I've known a long time. I've had the longest tenure of my career with Showtime, going back to February 2007. Not only are they my colleagues, David Dinkins, my boss, has become one of my nearest and dearest friends. Stephen Espinoza, Gordon Hall, all of my broadcast partners. This is a cutthroat business, highly competitive. And with all the cutbacks and with the shrinking of media and everyone desperate for jobs, I'm just so blessed to work at a place like Showtime. And then Scott Coker, who I had some of my most enjoyable experiences with Strikeforce. And now with Bellator MMA, I'm very grateful and lucky that I have the jobs that I do. And now, thanks to, not being on the weekly grind as I was with WWE, both mentally and otherwise, I have time to do something I really want to start doing more. And that's the show like the Maurologue, where I get to share my pop culture fandom and hopefully enlighten and inspire a mix of mental health, pop culture, sports, whatever. I'm not a combat sports announcer. I'm a personality, man. I've always wanted to perform, John. You know that. And that's why I'm polarizing. That's why I'm not everyone's cup of tea. But as I proved Saturday night at the Tyson pay-per-view, and the people who I was shocked to hear from, shocked. And the way they told me how important I was in that show, how can I not be humbled? How can I not show gratitude? And how can I not stand up for who I am and just, believe in what I want to do now? I know people are desperate for jobs. I shouldn't be, my family was devastated when I left WWE. Many people were. And yet it was the greatest relief of my life, because I knew it was going to continue to eat away at my mental illness. And I knew that it would come out in a very negative fashion for all involved. And I have way too much respect, especially for the men and women that literally put their lives on the line for our entertainment. And I love each and every one of them. So I'm blessed, and WWE was part of my blessing.
I thank you very much just for giving all of the context of that. And I look at that as, had this been 10 or 15 years ago, do you feel you would have had that ability in you to walk away and put your mental health first? Because that would have been, I think, a lot of people listening to this, the concern that a lot of people would not be able to make that informed decision, and God knows what the breaking point would have been. Do you feel that through your experiences and being so open that it made that decision a bit easier for you to make and prioritize your mental health?
A lot easier. There's no comparison, and you're absolutely right. I turned 50 last year. I'm not about numbers. I feel like I'm 25. I act like I'm 15. I'm a free spirit, maybe an old soul, young spirit, but I'm wiser now, as we all should be. And it's true what they say. We always rebel against our parents and the, authority figures, but with age comes wisdom and growth and hopefully maturity. And so, yeah, I was, again, I'm the one who's at peace with my decision. Many, many people I care for weren't, but I will say my most inner circle, they were waiting for it. They saw it. They knew my energy was down. And being with me at the best of times, as you know, John, it's enjoyable. I think I'm a great conversationalist. I have life of the party, always treating everyone well, but it can be tiring. It can be exhausting. It can be frightening. I know people care about me. So I don't think I don't think I'd be at WWE any other time than I was. And I never thought I'd make it there anyway. I was prepared and very happy doing what I was doing with New Japan. I'd done enough pro wrestling to satiate my appetite, but WWE is the apex, the top of the line. And of course, all the memories I have going back to when I was 6 years old with WWE and all pro wrestling promotions. It's a blessing. You know how many people want that gig? Do you know how many people want to work for that company and realize their childhood dreams? I got to do that. And so again, there's nowhere is perfect. Nowhere is perfect. But For me, I know what I can handle, and I have to have, priorities and my own pecking order. Showtime, I will be loyal to I take my last breath, just because I don't know if you know this, John, very early in my tenure with Showtime Championship Boxing, it was right after, Strikeforce had ended, and I was having difficulties, as you know, in Ontario, my work at the Score, leaving the fight. It just, again, it wasn't what I wanted to be when they canceled the MMA show out of left field. I'm like, what the hell is this? Like, what am I doing here? We've made history. You know how high quality, buddy, that show was ahead of its time, correct?
I agree. Absolutely.
And so, again, all the mess was there, was toiling with my mental health. And all of a sudden, again, the stress and just triggers. People don't realize mental health issues. It is triggers. When people receive bad news, we all deal with it in certain ways. When you're dealing with already a high level of anxiety and issues that are maybe of your own volition or chemical or environment, or whatever the case is, if you're having panic attacks and anxiety, why the hell would you subject yourself to that? So I was again at a low ebb. I was hospitalized despite Showtime hiring me to be their Showtime Championship Boxing announcer, again, giving me an opportunity. Did I deserve it? I'd never called pro boxing save for one fight. I'm sure there were other more than capable announcers that could have filled the role. It talks to the loyalty and the respect, and I believe the fact that maybe I did prove myself worthy to the powers that be at Showtime. But 1 month in, the first show at the Barclays Center in Brooklyn, October 2012, major moment for everybody. I'm in the fucking hospital, and I apologize for swearing, in Ontario. I'm done again. You know what I'm saying, brother? 13th time. So I missed the show, and why would they bring me back? We all know in this business, you skip a gig for whatever reason, you're replaceable. We all are, but that, if a person comes in and does the job, and by the way, my replacement, a legend, 50 years of broadcasting at the highest level, Barry Tompkins, what am I doing? Well, I'm sick. I can't do it. Instead of Showtime saying, okay, well, sorry, buddy, but you're not reliable. Sure, you're sick. We want to support, but the show must go on. I get phone calls from Gordon Hall. I get phone calls from David Dinkins. Hey, how you doing, brother? Well, take your time. We'll see you next month, or we hope the show goes on. And I know they had to do business. They may have considered bringing others in or making sure there's a backup if I end up whatever, incapable of doing my work. But when you hear of stuff like that, my man, that's to me is how can I ever leave? And then people have said, well, business is business. Is there a better deal? No, I'm loyal to Showtime. I'm loyal to Scott Coker. These people have helped me, and I'm loyal. I was loyal to WWE. I can't stress that enough. Triple H, Michael Cole, and what he meant to my tenure there. I don't even know if these people like me anymore. I know I left them high and dry in many ways, but I don't know if they were happy with me being at home and maybe not being as part of the process as I used to be. But I gave it my all each and every week. What did you say one time, John? You said, man, your preparation is next level. I had to challenge myself weekly because I owe it to not only my employers at the time, WWE, but again, Adam Cole, Johnny Gargano, Tommaso Ciampa, Keith Lee. I mean, literally the entire roster. They entertained me as much as I hope. I gave them the lyrics they needed to their songs, and I must say, and I want to share this. I won't share names, but the amount of support I received from my peers in pro wrestling and WWE, I will never forget that. And guess what, John? You knew this was coming. How can we say never? What is it? Never say never in life, not only business, but in life. So for now, I'm grateful that I'm spending a lot more time because of the weekly grind. Like I need to do better with my mental health. I need to do better with my life, especially during this pandemic. And I want to be that example to people. And that's why I now do a daily Maurologue. Not only do I do it to entertain and, share some wisdom and hopefully some fun stuff, but it's for my focus. It's like, Mauro, you need to be disciplined. This is part of your self-care regimen. You exercise, you read, you watch some, quality programming, but if anything, do this for yourself. And John, you know that. I don't even promote this thing. I just share it with you guys. You're my focus group. I think it gets 10, 20 listens a day, but I love it because I get to flex my writing muscle, my comedic muscle, my pop culture, and just my curiosity. So if anything, I'm having more fun now doing the Maurologue than even some recent broadcasting experience of mine, because it is authentically me. I'm not getting paid for it. No pressure to have to deliver, but yeah, I hope it does lead to other things because I'm really having fun, and it beats having anxiety attacks and panic attacks when you have to work.
Was that a bit of a evolution for you? I mean, you about a year ago, you decided to get off social media, and I'm just curious that a year removed from that, the impact that has had on you, and to revisit things such as launching this Maurologue, where it's more so on your terms, that you're putting things out and it's not necessarily opening the door to have unwanted criticism or whatever come your way. I'm just kind of interested in that decision you made a year ago and what its impact has been for you.
The greatest decision I have made for my mental health was leaving social media 1 year ago in November. It just opened up everything. I mean, it allowed me more self-care, the anxiety of, and you know me, John, I had over 250,000 tweets. Like, it was absolutely insane, manic. Oh, I got to do this, got to do that. Oh, I got to share this, got to share that, blah, 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 blah. No, F that. It's not necessary. And I mean, it speaks for itself. I don't have to talk about social media. Those who use it properly and make money or whatever, good for you. It was not for me. It really wasn't. And I know in my business, well, wait a minute, you have to promote your brand. You got to remain relevant. You got to stay in the, no, I'm doing okay. I'm doing more than okay in that fashion. And even it's funny we're talking about this now because I have my two nephews, Massimo and Roberto. Massimo is now 19, I believe. Oh, man, I should know this, right? 19. Yeah. He's now legal age. But he's very creative. He's going to a fashion school. He's into music. So he's kind of like me in that respect. And even today, he said, he goes, Uncle, I'm going to create an Instagram account, or I'm going to be the social media for the Maurologue, and I'll run it. I'll tell them that, Mauro Ranallo has nothing to do with this thing, because that's the one thing, John, that I really do stand by with myself is my integrity in terms of if I'm saying everywhere publicly not to go on social media and I'll never go on social media again, all of a sudden I'm back. That doesn't sit well with me. And for anyone who has seen The Social Dilemma, the documentary on Netflix, I understand more and more why I needed to get off. And I will say this, anyone with mental health issues, why would you subject yourself to social media? I just don't get it.
Just going back, one thing I was kind of interested just from a technical perspective is that when the pandemic begins and NXT is continuing, you're talking about a 3-person broadcast booth that is in different points in the country. And there would be some of these marathon days of 2 episodes per day. The finished product would come across seamless, but I have to imagine that was the most challenging broadcast that you had to do, just given, not being there in person, which is something that I'm sure you just take for granted, that like having that ability to make eye contact during a moment, and how you're a 3-man booth in the best of times can be tough to juggle. And here you are doing so remotely.
WWE's production values speak for themselves. They've got the most talented crew, and there's many talented people I work with, but they seamlessly, I mean, despite everything else going on, their production value is amazing. So you're right. They made it work. And there's so many, people like, my friend Nick and all of the engineering staff, the behind the scenes crew, the technical crew that made this possible. They're geniuses. They're incredible. But yeah, highly frustrating. And I believe that's what really started to trigger my issues. I had some mini meltdowns. I'm pretty sure I may have traumatized Beth Phoenix at times. And I just felt, we tried to make it work. It is almost impossible, man, especially 3-man booth. I'm a traditionalist. I want 2-man. At times I think I could do it by myself, but I think a 2-man booth is the ideal situation. That's why I had so much fun with Josh Barnett doing New Japan Pro Wrestling. Obviously, we make 3-man booth work. We made a 4-man booth work at the Tyson pay-per-view. So, I mean, I can do it. But yeah, it definitely led to my struggles, the way it was set up. And I know there was, they said, I did travel for Showtime in August to the Mohegan bubble, the Mohegan Sun bubble. I was very, they made sure we wanted to do it, all the testing, all the protocol. Yes, I was nervous. I'm still nervous, but I felt comfortable there. And I think maybe, they in Florida, it was much a hotspot. Florida was really bad at the time, and I just couldn't travel to Florida, and WWE again facilitated that. They brought me back to do, earn a living, which I will always be grateful for. But yeah, it was that definitely was a part of it. It could have worked even better, but it's just what it is, a perfect storm of, long days and really tough on me mentally. And people can say, you work 1 day a week and you complain. And yeah, I do. It's grueling mentally. And that's, again, the most important thing for me. And I just felt I wasn't giving the best of myself. Are you kidding? I thought it would lose, I didn't think I was giving my best work. I don't care what anyone says. And I'm, as hard on myself on anyone else. I want to be consistent. And because of that, because there's 3 people, 3 different places, because of the different experience levels, because of all of it, it was frustrating on a lot of levels, but we made it work the best we can.
Do you look at professional wrestling as something that if the right situation arose, that it would be something that you would be interested in, or would be the weekly commitment is not something that you're looking at? With your plate at the best of times is full. And you've always been someone that's always tried to make room to fit as much in as possible. Like, what's your thought process towards the balancing act if a professional wrestling offer came your way that made sense?
Yeah, there's never going back to what I was doing. No need to. It felt good. And I drove myself to become the first person ever to call MMA, boxing, pro wrestling, and kickboxing on major network television in America. Dream fulfilled. Overachievement. It's done. I've made it to I've done everything. I've gone above and beyond whatever I thought I could do, especially living with bipolar disorder. It's a full-time job in itself. So yeah, I've opened up a lot of time. Will I go back to pro wrestling? Definitely has to be on my terms. I hate to say it, and I'm not a prima donna or anything. I need to work with people that respect me, trust me, and will, defer to my levels of experience as well. I'm as easy to work with as anyone else, but at this stage of my life, I need to be happy. I need to be comfortable. Pro wrestling at the best of times is taxing on your mental health. I don't care for which promotion. It's the nature of the business. I haven't watched any wrestling since I left WWE, because in many ways it's like, watching your ex do something that, love. And, I heard, even War Games, this weekend I missed, which I had some of my best times calling wrestling at War Games, and the incredible, bravery and courage the performers had, for their craft and wanting to entertain the crowd. But yeah, I'm not interested, in going back to that kind of rigorous schedule. I would love to call professional wrestling still. I'm glad that there's, many promotions, despite the pandemic, there's still places where you can do. I mean, AEW has been, a win-win-win for them. And I believe it should be, again, like the Monday Night Wars, which now, those days are over. But I believe competition in every sense of the word, and it is cliche, it should bring out the best in everyone. And I'm just grateful there's that many more paying opportunities for the workers. And so never say never, John. I'm still, I'm still sad. I'm still grieving. I'm still mourning. It was a great job, man. I loved it, and I was paid very well for it. And and I know, again, the feedback from the fans, I never thought I'd be a guy that people would, have this much passion for. The emails I still get are just so touching and humbling. And so I'm very grateful that I'll at least be remembered positively for the most part. But for now, I want to, explore other options, more voiceover work, maybe try to host a game show if I can, do the Maurologue, and try to just, in the last decade or so of my career, do something I really wanted to do all my life and branch out. I'm a performer. I'm a broadcaster. I want to do different things. I might even go back and do a radio show just for myself. I have no idea. Music. I'm looking at other things now, brother. And of course, the mental health advocacy, playing my keyboard. I love my music. I want to be Mauro Ranallo, mental health advocate and entertainer, and not necessarily the combat sports guy, but I love what I do in combat sports. And I can't believe that I continue to do these historic, monumental things, but I'm eternally grateful. And I have nothing but respect for people like you and what you've meant to my career and just your support. And like I say, chemistry, we worked very well together. There's a reason for that. We respected each other. And that's all I ask for in any arena that I'm in.
Well, getting to see it firsthand, I mean, you alluded to it earlier of just the preparation that you would put into your work that I got to see firsthand. I would many times go back to, certain days when we would be on the radio and a guest would literally fall out as you were 2 minutes into a 22.5-minute segment, and I'm rebooking and literally would go into your ear, sorry, change up, this is the guest now. And without skipping a beat, you would go into a 20-minute interview with a guest cold and have all your facts. And that just goes to all that the preparation that you put in, that if you suddenly, Chris Liebman's out and Frank Trigg is in, boom, you just adjusted on the fly. And it was remarkable to watch, because I don't think that there's too many people in those situations that could be that flexible, that you and I doing a daily show where it was 3 guests per day, and it's very erratic personalities sometimes that you're trying to coordinate with times could present you on a daily basis.
And I thank you for that. And again, I think what encompassed that and may have been the best thing for my career in many ways. And again, it just bugs me because I had to replace a friend in Al Bernstein, and I have to continue to mention that. I never enjoy replacing someone, especially when they're sick. But that performance or that broadcast, I think it crystallized what you're talking about there, John. People were like, holy shit, he knows his MMA, obviously. He was working with, Adesanya was even like, wow. Ray Leonard, I'm a boxing, historian. I love boxing. I do it for a career. And then Snoop Dogg. And that was what a lot of people were saying. Hey, how does this middle-aged white guy know so much about hip-hop and Seamless and just working with Snoop? Again, that's my prep. That's my love. That's and as much as I prepare, it's a daily thing. I still need to prepare even for interviews like this. I don't know what you're going to ask. And as my brother said in the documentary, it's just too much. His bandwidth is full. And so now I'm compartmentalizing. Now I'm letting, as Frank said, Shamrock says, the work is done. As my therapist says, Mauro, enter your flow state. It's there. And I just, 2 days before is when I got the gig last Saturday. So, I had to prepare whatever I did, but it came out the way it did. And we take for granted what we do know or what we can recall. And like I say, my insecurity is fear of failure. My insecurities are imposter syndrome. I need to keep reading and rereading. And I prepare for the boxing event that I got the next 2 weeks. We got 2 shows. The week of the fight, I'll go and collect all the notes I can on the internet. You've seen it. It's like a Bible. It's War and Peace of information. And I'll go quickly, edit this, don't need this, don't need this. Oh, it's good to know there, but it's not important. And then I end up where it's like, just for example, 3 pages become a page and a half. And then all of a sudden you continue to crystallize. You do a little writing. You keep stats there, and then you keep reading it. So you memorize it, and it's there, and you hopefully learn it. So it's not just rote, or you're not just memorizing, but sometimes that's what it is as well. But to me, my security blanket, as it were, is 1 sheet in front of me, even though I wear glasses and I'm blind, 9 point. I got highlighted the black, bold print, and then 1 regular bold print. And I fill up 1 sheet. I may use only 3 points. I may not, need much. It's already there in the noggin. But man, oh man, that's my prep. It's something I love, John. I love knowing shit. I love learning. I love telling human stories. I just can't get enough. So in another world, I'd just be a researcher. I just love learning things.
Well, you say 3 points. There was a day that we were 10 minutes away from a radio show and Mauro's notes needed to be printed. And when this printer malfunctioned, Mauro took a few steps back and I didn't know what was going to happen. And he proceeded to kick this field goal where this printer was going to be good for 3 points because I thought you were going to break your foot, at least break this printer when the notes would not print. And my God, it was a sight that is crystallized in my memory.
Wow, that's buddy. You've seen it's not a full day if you don't have a Mauro Ranallo-matic meltdown, but those days are gone too, which is nice. Again, we all mellow out as we age, but I also realize, man, it's not fair to anybody else to show that. Why do you have to show that? Like, I'm trying to kill with kindness. I know we're in a very polarizing time, a very tribal time on earth, but I'm just realizing, my man, especially this year, boy, oh boy, life is precious. And even if you have issues, and we all do, mental health is impacting everyone now. And it's got to be normal. It's got to be talked about every day, like the weather, like anything else, because people are dying. People are dying because they feel that they can't support their family. They feel they can't provide. They feel no one will listen. They're embarrassed. They're male, the alpha male. Forget it, guys. Come on. And I'm seeing it, John. Even reconnecting with you, Ariel Helwani, Rich Chow from Bellator, Squire Barnes, my friend, who was the first person to give me a full-time radio job, or my biggest profile job when I was 18. I think he was like 22, 23, and he was hosting a Sunday night sports talk show in Vancouver. At the time, CKO, the only radio station with 3 call letters because it couldn't afford the 4th. It was amazing. And here we are 32 years later. I was on the sports talk show at 18. He just did a story on me doing the Tyson thing on Global News in Vancouver last week. So even people like that re-entering my life, and it's so incredible. So I encourage everyone to do the same thing. It's about relationships. It's about human connection. It's not about just all the money you can make, all the fame you can achieve. We need to be nicer and kinder to each other, or this planet's not going to make it.
Well, we'll end it off there. I want to encourage everyone to check out the Maurologue. We'll link to it here with the interview. It's available on Anchor, on Spotify. Mauro's putting out these daily reports where you get to see a wide variety of newsman Mauro Ranallo with his take on the world, his very unique take on the world. And I know you've got a birthday coming up, Mauro. How is 2020 going to finish off for one Mauro Ranallo, who we should note is in California, which is, of course, one of the concerned areas right now?
Yeah, I'm busy right now, John, just trying to help out where I can while trying to be as safe as I can. And I'm trying to get home, brother, trying to get to Canada. I'm grateful that I still have the Canadian passport, but it's been tough, obviously.
Sure.
I have been back for quick visits. My parents are elderly. My nephews are, we all have our things. I went through the proper protocol, quarantining and all that, but it's still hard, and I still wonder if I should do that. But I'm hoping to be home for the holidays, but so are a lot of others. And while we need to, I don't want to get political, brother, but it's just nuts that we're not doing everything all of us can do to. This is a health issue, not a political issue. People, come on. Let's
Amen.
Just do what we need to do. Just do it.
Mauro, I thank you so much on behalf of Wei Ting. I want to thank you for joining us today at Post Wrestling. Next time we will make sure to have Wei Ting on the call with us. You have to. Hey, we got to have that Wei Ting clan. I'm always going to use that reference from now until the end of time. Wei Ting clan. And David, are you there, my man? I am here. Shout out to Dave Meltzer, man. Love that guy. Love Dave Meltzer. Thank you.